Welcome to the Food and Beverage Processor Forum, brought to you by Food and Beverage Ontario. I'm Dyson Wells.
And I'm Chris Conway, CEO at Food and Beverage Ontario.
Welcome back to another episode of the Food and Beverage Processors Forum, the podcast where we explore the trends, technology, and ideas shaping Ontario's food and beverage processing industry. Today we have a triple threat, touching on all three. We're looking at how the precipitous rise of artificial intelligence, particularly AI vision systems, is transforming how food and beverage manufacturers operate on the factory floor. From improving quality control to boosting efficiency and safety, this new form of technology is combining with the latest surge in industry investments in automation to offer unprecedented levels of control and insight for processors. The benefits that come with these forms of advanced automation and technology, supporting processors in meeting the rising demands for quality, safety, and operational efficiency, are quickly becoming not just a nice to have, but a must have. Joining us to unpack how AI vision is being applied to real-world processing facilities is Jeff Hetherington, Head of Project Development at Maneva.ai. Jeff brings more than 30 years of leadership experience in food manufacturing, with past roles at J.M. Schneider, Maple Leaf Foods, and Safina Foods. At Maneva, he now leads the development of AI-powered solutions aimed at helping processors modernize their operations and improve performance through data-driven insight. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure. It's funny because it's almost like in the last 2 years, I'm excited. It's almost like all my favorite sci-fi movies are coming to life. It's also kind of mind-blowing because, oh my God, all my favorite sci-fi movies are coming to life. But you know, first off, I mean, how did you get into this kind of line of work? You know, what it is you work on and how you got here.
Oh, sure. It's sort of interesting as I've spoken with other folks. They say, you know, you're part of this AI revolution and you must be a techie and all that sort of thing. Well, I'm really not. I'm a 30-year veteran of food manufacturing, as you had said, with mainly in the protein industries within Canada. And I concentrated on plant leadership and continuous improvement, being a Six Sigma black belt for continuous improvement as well. So really, that's my background. Like you say, with all the sci-fi and that's just like cool stuff I used to read about. But after the pandemic, I was in a position where we in the food industry worked through the pandemic. We didn't get any time at home. We were quite exhausted after that. And at my age, I was just turning 60. So at my age, I was like, you know, I'm really kind of burnt out right now. I think I need a rest. So early retirement became an option for me. So I took advantage of it. And after a couple of months of resting, I thought, wow, I'm really bored. I really need something to do. So I need a bit of, I need something to get me going here. So I posted on the Canadian Food Innovation Network's website, just saying, offering my experience and saying, if you need some help with anything, give me a call. I can teach you about the industry. I can help startups, that sort of thing. And this young fella named Ray Jiang got a hold of me, and Ray was the CEO of a company called Laplace Robotics at the time. Subsequently, we became known as Maneva, and that is our name now. And Ray had this really cool background, and he had this really sort of vision of where he wanted to take his knowledge, but he needed help getting there. And Ray worked with Google DeepMind, so you know, probably one of the most premier AI-focused companies in the world. And he was a researcher there, and he worked on a lot of really cool stuff with Google DeepMind. And he took his knowledge and his learning and his passion for bringing it to industry, and he needed help understanding the industry. And he was very honest to say, listen, I know AI, I know robotics, mechatronics, automation, that sort of stuff, but I really need to learn more about the food industry. So can you teach me? So for a couple of months, we actually spent every week just talking about the industry and learning about pain points and how it works and that sort of thing. And then eventually he called me one day and he says, I'd really like you to join us full time. I think we can really make a huge partnership here. And that's what I did. I decided at that point in time, it was like, I have to be a part of this, I want to say, technological revolution for our industry. And I consider myself still always to be a food industry expert, part of the industry. And I needed to be a part of this next wave of technology that was really going to transform our industry. So I joined with them. My role now under project development is, so I sort of work with the customers and I work with our engineering team, and I'm sort of in between. And at times I can be the dreamer of applications. So if I'm walking through someone's plant and, we're doing a Gemba walk to see opportunities, I may notice that there's something there that, if we could automate this or AI could be a part of this, it would make it so much better. Mm-hmm. So I help them to develop the applications that create the most value and solve the big pain points for our industry. That's where we've started off. And then I just continue on with that and really work with the customers to identify their needs and what sort of applications do they need and what's going to help them best. And so then I kind of, talk to engineering and talk to the customer and kind of go in between, and we fuse everything together. So I'm sort of that in-between person that helps them achieve their new applications.
Very cool. So you've got 30 years experience. I want to ask you a specific question about that in a minute. But first, let's give a bit of a precursor for our listeners. So can you just quickly explain, what I think everybody knows what AI is in terms of, ChatGPT and, maybe image generation or maybe even Google Lens, I think. They may be able to understand that kind of stuff on a consumer level. Mm-hmm. But what is AI in conjunction with vision systems? And specifically, how is it being integrated in food processing, and how does it line up with robotics and automation in the industry?
Yeah, great question. So I guess we start off with, think of artificial intelligence or AI as teaching computers to think and learn like humans. So instead of just following strict instructions, AI allows computers to learn from data, just the same way we learn from experience. The more information we take in, the more we learn. Computers are doing the same thing. Learn how to identify patterns. So AI can spot trends and relationships in data that might be a bit too complex for humans to understand and see, but the programs can solve the problems quickly and identify them. They learn how to make decisions based on what it's learned. So then AI starts making predictions and that sort of stuff, and taking action if it needs. And it improves over time. So AI really does improve over time. The longer it runs, the smarter it gets. Read a study that not too long ago that says AI is becoming twice as smart every 2 months. It seems to be the time frame that it's going with right now. And another phrase that I heard was the best time to implement AI was 20 years ago, because 20 years would have been great to have all of that accumulation of data and knowledge, and it would be very good. So it's never too late to really to implement AI. So the other thing I always like to say, it's not about, robots becoming self-aware and, developing feelings and that sort of thing. It's not that. It's about using smart software to solve problems and automate tasks that really require human intelligence. That's what we're trying to do there.
Right. We're not looking at the onset of Skynet or anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a genuine fear, genuine concern that some people have. And that's okay. We talk to folks about that sort of thing, just so they understand what it is that we're doing. We train AI. AI doesn't train us, so we train it. So, we have that control of what it's doing, more or less. So particular AI and vision systems So vision systems are essentially they're just cameras and computers that work together to see and interpret images and videos. So traditionally, they used to rely on very specific, pre-programmed, sort of rigid rules. So a rule would be something like this. It would be like, if the object is round and red, it's a tomato. That would be its rule. Mm-hmm. Now, the rules are changing a little bit more for AI, so it takes on a little bit of a different atmosphere. So it recognizes complex objects, even if there's a variety in size or shape or orientation, that sort of thing. It detects subtle defects, like small blemishes, misaligned packaging, foreign material, something that could be missed by the human eye. It's going to see that. And it understands context. So, for example, differentiating between a shadow and a real defect on a product, it understands that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So, when you get into image capturing, I'll give you a real sort of condensed version of the science behind it. So, there's image capturing, then it takes digital conversion. Then it goes through AI processing, and then that's the tricky part. That's the AI algorithm that which has been trained on like thousands or even millions of images, that sort of thing, to analyze the digital image. And then it takes out that feature extraction. So what is it looking for? Then it does pattern matching. Then it'll do decision making. Right? So AI can make a decision for you, and that's where we come in. We want to make a decision kind of like a human does, right? I'm taking in all this information, I'm processing it, and I'm making a decision. Basically, like if a cookie is coming down the production line and it might be burnt, and a human's going to take a look at it and they're going to process it, and they're just going to say, oh, it looks a bit dark. AI is going to do the exact same thing. Through its camera, its computing system, it's going to look at it and say, no, that does not meet the requirements that I'm looking for. I need to make a decision on it, mm-hmm. right? And then with ours, basically it's making a decision and sending a signal, providing a signal, and then that's when you get the mechanical rejection systems going in. So AI can't reach out itself and just pick that cookie off. It needs a mechanical arm or a reject system or something. So that's where it gives that signal to that piece of equipment to say, here, do something with it.
Machinery, yeah.
Exactly. Cool. Yeah. There was another one, and if you think of, it's like teaching a child to recognize different fruits. So if you tell a child that a banana is yellow and curved, and then you show them a lot of different bananas, they're going to go, oh, it's, that's a banana. And if they see something yellow and curved, they're going, oh, that's a banana.
Yeah.
Right. Well, in this case, you have to show it a lot of different bananas to show it, to say, this is what they really do look like. Some are slightly brown, some are really yellow, some are slightly green, that sort mm-hmm. of thing. And then eventually the child will learn that, that's a banana. It comes in different, colors and that sort of thing. So AI vision does the exact same thing.
Yeah, you almost are training it like a kid to learn. Uh-huh. Here are all these examples of this scenario, and it just remembers that and recognizes a pattern.
Yeah, I talked to a couple of employers and just talked to them and said, if you think about it, it's probably, not to really brag on AI, but it's probably one of the smartest employees you're ever going to hire, really. When you take a look at it, because it never forgets anything. So, as humans, we tend to forget things. So, we get so much knowledge, we can forget things. And the other thing with AI is that AI vision is it's not subjective. Humans can be very subjective. So, that cookie looks a little dark, but I think it's okay, and I'll let it go. Whereas AI vision is very objective. It really doesn't meet my rules. I can't let it go past this shade of brown, that sort mm-hmm. of thing. And then it removes it like that. So it's a smart, intelligent employee that you're hiring.
Yeah.
Really. And it's up to you to train it, to teach it what you want it to learn. So an employee will have a learning curve, and they'll get to a point where they've learned almost everything there is for the job. But with AI vision, it just continues on learning from there because of all of that data that it's taking in. So it improves on itself over time.
Looking for an effective solution to attracting and retaining employees in Ontario's food and beverage processing sector? Careers Now introduces Recruit Now, a new service designed specifically for employers like you. Recruit Now provides your HR team with personalized, one-hour sessions at your facility. You'll learn about practical resources, including virtual job fairs, complimentary and discount job postings, wage subsidies of up to $7,000 per co-op student, as well as targeted opportunities to feature your business through Careers Now promotional material, including its social media, website, and advertising. Sessions begin June 1st, 2025. Reserve your Recruit Now appointment today at careersnow.ca and let Careers Now support you in building a stronger team. And by the way, lunch is on us. Chris, I want to give you a chance to jump in here because I know AI is being brought into this whole push on automation that the industry is trying to do. Have you seen a lot of uptick in terms of that conversation evolving from not just automation, but to automation and AI or data-driven systems?
Yeah, I mean, there's huge interest in this area, and as you know, Jeff and Dyson, our sector has a lot more tech in it than people would think, and so already the potential's there, and so with something like AI, there's tremendous interest in people getting more involved in this and using it for a whole host of purposes, and I find it interesting. I mean, the applications I see sort of in my personal life, like a lot of young people are using this, right, for academics and so on. And, so one of my sons, I asked him about AI because, they're not allowed to use it for school. And he said, yes, you're not allowed to use it to write a paper, but you can use it for every single other thing. So it's astonishing how people are using this stuff. If you ask some of our members now, people are using it for developing contracts, for all these things. So it's a very interesting area, and I did have the opportunity very briefly in my career. I worked at the Canadian Institute for Advanced Research, and they run the Pan-Canadian AI program, and so I got exposed to a lot of stuff around that. That's the government-run program where they're recruiting AI experts into Canada, and so CFAR helped develop a lot of the AI. 3 of the AI godfathers are affiliated with the Institute. So just being in the room and hearing some of those discussions, so Jeffrey Hinton's one of them, obviously. And, just being in the room and hearing some of those discussions was absolutely fascinating, where this stuff is going and what it can do and the power. And I think that's something people got to realize, right? Like each version of this, when it goes from 3 to 4 or so on, it's not just it's exponentially more powerful. So I think it's got tremendous possibility for the sector. There's a lot of interest in people, getting more into AI as it goes forward. And, even for ourselves, I can tell you quite up front that our strategic plan, we've got stuff put in there as well about tracking implementation around this, gauging interest in it, and so on. So I think it's an absolutely fascinating area. And I think, people really should be looking at it if they're not looking at it already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting because, I mean, I'm sure you can talk to a few processors and ask them, have you implemented AI? And they will immediately think, no, I haven't. And they're thinking on their floor, but more than likely, a lot of their employees have to start helping them with different aspects of their role. I know that we, on the Careers Now side of things, held a live stream where we talked to an individual who was specifically using it for HR related tasks or researching tasks, and just saying, I've done trials. I've even tried it where I asked my team to look into something, do a deep dive on a specific thing. And then I let ChatGPT do it with a deep dive, and I found that it honestly did a fantastic job, and it saved me, like, my team several hours of work. Of course, stressing, not that team won't be doing anything now. It means they can do other things, right? But it's very cool. It's a very innovative aspect, I think, that's kind of just come as like a flood to us, I think, at this point. I was going to ask you, Jeff, before we start getting into, how these AI vision systems can help processors address the challenges for their manufacturing. I do want to ask you, because, I mean, you said you had 30 years experience in the manufacturing industry. What has surprised you the most about this stuff?
I think it's the power. The power of it is, as Chris had just said, it's the power of the technology. It's you can actually have AI connected to vision that can see and process the same way a human does that. And it leads to so much opportunity for us in the fields of health and safety, food safety, quality, monitoring machines, that sort of thing. That's what surprised me about this. And it's so easy to use. It's really not difficult to implement this into our plants. And which a lot of people think, oh, this is new technology. It's going to be really expensive. It's going to take me, I got to hire my own AI engineers and that sort of stuff. No. That's not it. You can rely on companies like Maneva, for an example, that want to work on your factory floor, that embed themselves in your factory floor and help you implement and integrate this technology. So simple integration, surprising power. That's what surprised me the most.
Yeah, no, it's understandable. I mean, I was looking through some research on AI vision specifically, and it was shocking because I didn't realize, Maneva has kind of a two-tier system. It did have an aspect that I wasn't ready for. I knew about the quality control. A lot of people could imagine that. Having a look at a chocolate bar and recognizing a fingerprint, for example, or a foreign object of some kind, or even broken or something like that. What I wasn't ready for was almost like a plant supervisor type of AI. That one took me off guard. When I saw that, it was almost like a eureka moment, like a wow, like that's so big for just off the bat, first and foremost, safety. Recognizing that there's like bottlenecks or that, someone has fallen or anything like that. Recognizing, whether someone's wearing PPE. I was talking to a few people within the industry the other week, and they were actually stressing about how safety, no matter what, will always be first. And then seeing AI being able to supplement that effort is really interesting and something that for some reason I just never thought about. So,
Yeah, exactly. And it's interesting you say that too, with the way it said is it supplements. And that's exactly what it's doing right now for us, especially in the field of safety. Both Ray and I and the team feel very strongly about safety. We come from industries where safety was the number one priority, and it still holds very true to us to this day. And the technology that we're developing is that sort of technology where you have our Vita solutions, which is video to action, which is very specific, checking quality and looking at a bearing or a belt to make sure it's not breaking down, or if it is breaking down and alerting you, that sort of thing. But then we have Alice as well. So it's ALIS. So that's your active line supervisor, as you were saying. So it's basically an AI supervisor. So where that kind of came from was we were working with a customer, and there were multiple rooms within the plant, and a supervisor could easily get stuck in one room looking after a problem. But then there could be multiple problems that could start occurring in other areas as well. Mm-hmm. Or, that machine might break down and nobody might know about it because, it's unmanned at that point in time. Or there's excessive water on the floor and somebody's going to go and they're just going to slip on it. And, you're going to have another slip and fall event that you don't want to have, right? So going back to the safety portion of it, we want to do this and make sure that we're keeping people as safe as can. So Alice is looking at you, watching, and making sure that you're wearing your PPE. You're wearing your PPE for a reason. It is personal protective equipment. It's there to protect you. We want to make sure you're wearing it. And it can alert to say, no, you're not wearing it. We have one company in Quebec that we work with, a chocolate manufacturer. And the AI will check you to just make sure, verify that you have your PPE on before the door opens into production. And if you don't have it on, it doesn't send the signal to the door to allow it to open for you to go into production.
Yeah.
So that's the sort of thing there. And then for the overseeing sort of production wise, a lot of our food and beverage manufacturers have in-house security systems, security camera systems. We're just basically tapping into a lot of that visual data through those systems and helping them to understand how fast is my machine running? Is my machine running? While my supervisor's over in this area looking after something else. Are all my folks that are supposed to be on the line, they're there, everybody's accountable, and everybody's safe, so everything's good. I can continue on. So it leads into what we call management by exception. So if you practice management by exception, you can be in another room somewhere. Alice is watching this entire other operation, and if something is not right, it's going to send an alert to you saying you need to come back over to this room right away, right? So you can focus somewhere else. So again, it's supplementing, it's helping you to do your job.
Yeah. No, that's very cool, and I hope that thing isn't in contention for like Employee of the Month or anything, because it's not fair. It's.
I got to say, I think one of the things with AI that's become most evident to me, and I alluded to it earlier about academia, but for example, people using AI to help them take notes and things. We often go on meetings now where people are using, there's a couple different softwares. I see Read AI is one of them and so on, but it's almost like, and Jeff, I'd be interested in your take on this. You almost have to figure out how to be creative with it, because there are so many applications you can have. Like, you can take just about anything and plug it into AI in some way and say, hey, what, and that to me seems to be the big thing is, like when I talk to, like I mentioned my sons, but when I talk to them, like people who deal with this a lot, they figure out ways to use this that you wouldn't otherwise think of. Right. So, you mentioned the notes thing for meetings now, which is really interesting because that's become very prevalent. A lot of the government calls are using that now. When we get these big stakeholder consultations with 50, 60, 100 people and they've got AI summarizing everything, which is really convenient because in some cases you don't have time for a 2-hour stakeholder call. So I can glance through and say, okay, what's relevant? But for me, that's the most interesting part is you really can be creative with it, and you can find applications that you wouldn't otherwise think of. And I'm sure, Jeff, you've come across some of these things in the course of the manufacturing environment where people wouldn't otherwise think, oh, I can do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I have to say that, like GPT or Gemini or something like that, I use those tools. That's, I work from home, so it's my assistant. It helps me get my job done. So basically I have somebody helping me at all times. So that's what I use it for there. When, and note taking is the other as well. I mean, you're absolutely right, Chris. It's outstanding at taking notes. You gotta check it. The first versions, you had to really check and make sure you understood what it was writing, because it didn't understand every single word that you were saying. But so you would just check through it on that. But it is getting better and better all the time. So we're taking notes so that we always have that information, that data to roll back on. The other one is when you're talking to manufacturers. So when you first go into a manufacturer says, hey, listen, I want to learn about AI. So you go in, and the first thing we always do is we always do a Gemba walk through their plant, and we walk with them just from the eyes of, AI vision, what will it see? And we write down opportunities for them. And then we sit and we talk about those opportunities, saying, we can improve the quality, or we can watch, that piece of machine from breaking down. We had one in a poultry manufacturer who had these overhead rails that run with all the birds hanging from it. And if that rail goes down, your production's down for like a day and a half while they fix it. And it can cost like $600,000 at a time. It's a very expensive critical failure. We actually have an AI vision system that monitors the critical parts for that now, and which are the wheels that the rails run on. And it identifies if a wheel is missing, cracked, or broken, and will signal right away to say you've got a problem there. And what it's doing now is it's alerting you to make your repair, to keep your line up and running, so you're not losing $600,000. That was one that I just never thought of that one before. As well as when you go into like a kill cut facility where you're harvesting hogs. There's so many applications that came out of that. And I had no idea. It's you have a person who is looking for a very specific, there's a cut to a meat and how much trim is on there and that sort of thing. These ones are really starting to surprise me. So the more you talk to manufacturers about it, the more excited they get about it, because now they're starting to see the opportunity. I had a conversation with a VP of distribution for a company inside in the GTA. And we're just kind of just brainstorming. What is it that you need? What's costing you the most? What causes you the most headaches and that sort of thing? We started listing things out, and before we started listing things out, he says, "Well, I don't really understand it. Can you help explain it to me?" So I showed him, just a quick PowerPoint on here's what we do, here's what's running, that sort of thing. And just before we could even finish, he was almost jumping in his chair. He was so giddy with excitement, going, "Oh my gosh, I have so many different applications I can get you to make for me." And the one was reading the trailer tags. So all the trailer tags, the trailers are connected up and locked up and the tag goes on them. And I guess there's a real big problem with those tags go missing, or somebody writes down the wrong number. I don't have it anymore. Now I've got a recall because I can't tell you where that truck came from, that sort of stuff. And it's very simple. Yeah, Vision can really look after that easily because it identifies it as on the truck as the trailer comes into your yard. It finds it right away. It's got it, and then it starts, traveling around with this sort of thing. So another surprising one that I didn't think of whatsoever. So there's many of it. The more people learn about AI vision and it's what it can really do for you, the more of these applications are coming out. It's like an iceberg. We've only hit the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more that we have to do. We just don't even know about yet.
I love the tag example because I think it just does kind of isolate what I see AI supporting processors with in a lot of roles. This is going to be the nerdiest example, so you can point and laugh at me for all you want. I consider it the difference between manually typing in numbers in Excel or using a formula. Humans are error prone. You might get it wrong all the time, and then you use a formula, and it's calculating and giving you the result, and that's it. Yeah. It's just doing its job. So I always kind of view it that way. And I think the funny thing is that you can talk about AI like that, but then you can also talk about all these really cool, creative applications for it. I used to work at a warehouse when I was a teenager, and I got to drive around they weren't forklifts, but they were automated. I forget what they were called, but I moved the skids around. And I saw an application for this where it would recognize what areas were occupied and what were vacant. And I was thinking, just from my own experience, how absolutely invaluable that could be, because you spend a lot of time kind of driving around trying to identify where you can put stuff, and then sometimes there's a skid there and you don't know why. I thought that kind of stuff was really cool, as well as the hand washing one that I saw where it recognizes, hey, I'd imagine the application for this was that there'd be a camera set up for by the hand station. It would then notify someone that employees are not washing their hands long enough. Maybe it's time for a very quick little conversation on Monday morning about washing your hands for 2 minutes or something. Right? Maybe I was overshooting it with 2 minutes, but yeah.
Well, it's a little long. Yeah, it's a little long for scrubbing your hands. Yeah, definitely. When you're in healthcare, you want to be scrubbing that long, but it's 20 seconds.
I've got parents in healthcare. That's why.
Okay, there you go. So it's interesting you say the one with the hand washing one. So we have a company that has 5-6 plants, and they have the hand washing app. It's been rolled out into all the plants. It's actually a competition. It's a little bit of a competition. Who's doing the best, because they can see each other's results. So you can see the average amount of time for hand washing, and you want it between 15 and 20 seconds. That's what we want it to be. And And so everybody wants to be, who's going to be at the top of the leaderboard this week, sort of thing. It's part of their daily metrics now. It's not coming out. It's always going to be a part of their daily metrics, and it does help improve because, again, it's always keeping that historical data, and it show you where did you start and where you are now. Significant improvement over top of it.
Yeah, I love that. It's so funny how it can become almost a part of everybody's workday. So I love that it's integrating to that level.
Are you an Ontario food and beverage processing employer struggling to attract qualified candidates? Then Careers Now is the resource you've been looking for. Careers Now is Food and Beverage Ontario's workforce development initiative supporting the province's vibrant and growing food and beverage processing industry. Ontario employers can access training for new hires, wage subsidies for hiring college and university students, virtual job fair hosting, and much more, all for free. Connect with qualified candidates for your company today. Getting started is easy. Just head to careersnow.ca.
We do only have an hour, so I do want to get the most out of your time here. So I'm wondering, can you cover how someone goes about implementing AI vision in an existing facility? And what are the steps involved with getting that technology implemented?
Sure. I'll kind of walk through what happens with maybe one of our customers because it's a really great system that we have running with them. So first off, it's basically taking a walk through your plant. So you get a hold of Maneva, say, listen, let's talk about AI. Let's talk about opportunities that we have. So get your AI vision integrator, get them to come into your plant, discuss your challenges and your goals, walk through the plant, get a good Gemba walk so that you're really identifying the opportunities. Now, we use what's called an AI integration format. It's something that we've developed. It's actually, if you don't mind me saying, it's on my LinkedIn profile. We've posted it there. Yeah. So if anybody can use it, it's open to anybody if they really want to use it. From there, then we identify the top priority pain points. So a lot of times it's just low-hanging fruit. Where do you really want to start? Where do you want to capture that quick ROI? And that's what you're always looking for. You're looking to solve a problem that you're dealing with all the time to improve your cost, improve your safety score, improve your quality score. And so you choose that specific problem to address. Then you plan out the hardware needs. So where are your cameras located? Do you have existing? Do you need something specific? Again, in the case of Vita, the video to action, if it's looking at a very specific quality, maybe there's an IP rated camera that needs to go on the line. Maybe there's something there. If it's sort of an Alice application, maybe it's just the in-house security system. So kind of decide what it is. We'll give you recommendations. Here's what you need. Here's your cameras you need. Here's your GPUs, your compute units. Here's cabling that should go. We use cabling. We don't use the Wi-Fi signal. Wi-Fi can be very choppy, whereas cabling is very direct and stable. And then you decide, do I want this edge computing? So do I want it computing in my plant and staying in my plant only? Or is this something where I set up a secure signal, a secure line, so it goes back to Maneva? Or do I just want general cloud computing? Mm-hmm. We actually have a company, we deal within Canada and the United States. So we have a Canadian manufacturer in the States that says, listen, I'm okay with cloud computing, so we do that. So it's very individualized. Mm-hmm. Then we start data collection. So data collection is the big thing. This is where you're training your employee. Your employee can be trained, within a week to really give you the gist of what it's doing, and then it just becomes smarter and smarter as the months go by, sort of thing. And then you see full ROI coming in within a couple months. You see instant ROI. Don't get me wrong on that one. Like within a week, you're going to see some ROI coming back on it. And then we evaluate the results once it's implemented, after the data's been collected, the model's been trained, it's been running for a week. We come back, we evaluate the results, we compare that against the ROI to make sure we're on right track, and then we do full-scale deployment. Is it You want this one, this application running. Now you've had a chance to see what it's doing. I bet you now you got 3 more applications you're going to want to get into. So then you start that sort of planning the full scale deployment, and you do the exact same thing all over again, right? You follow the same steps, and then you're always going to monitor and improve. So we continually push improvements back to the GPUs, so it's updating the system all the time. That's, because AI is, like I said, it's getting smarter and smarter as we go within a couple of months all the time. You really need to push the upgrades to the system constantly. So we're constantly doing that and constantly monitoring and improving. So that's sort of the outline of it.
Yeah. What are the challenges they usually run into when trying to implement?
Yeah, one big one for food and beverage, food manufacturing, is you get natural variation in size, shape, color, texture of food products. Whereas if you're in consumer electronics or you're in, timber, wood production, that sort of thing, it's very straightforward. Nothing really changes. Whereas variation in food changes a lot. So we did one with chicken wings. So you have the drums and the flats and, that sort of thing. And you have to be able to identify between the two. Sometimes they have blemishes on there that's okay, but sometimes they have blemishes on there that need to be flagged. So variability, natural variations. And it's a tough one to work with, but we're being very successful. AI is very successful at that. Harsh environments is another one. So, in food industry, you're obviously washing down quite often, and you've got a lot of hot temperatures of waters and chemicals and for cleaning and that sort of thing. So you've got to really be careful of your equipment that you're using, high humidity, cold environments, vibrations, all that sort of stuff. Another one I think is probably the high-speed production, because a lot of the stuff, like we work with a candy manufacturer, and when those little candies come down the line, they're running at thousands of pieces per minute, and we have one that's a defect rejection, and there's like a pneumatic air thing that it just blasts off if it's no good, sort of thing. It's amazing how fast it runs. So that's a challenge at times, but very much doable. And the last one I'm thinking of is lack of in-house AI vision expertise, I think, is another one. I think that's a challenge for many. You can't go out and hire your own AI engineer. You can. If you can, you're doing really well. Yeah. But it's very, very expensive. Having the software engineers to go full development on that stuff, that's where you really you need to develop a partnership with an AI integrator, especially for vision. You need to develop that relationship because they have the resources for you that you may not have.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. That kind of leads into my other question was, is this kind of technology for just the large organizations, or like how can this be implemented for those smaller, mid-sized businesses?
Yeah,
Dyson just read my mind.
Yeah,
90% of our sector is small business, as you know, Jeff. So that's Absolutely. The question I think I would get posed from people is, what can I do, given the context I'm in terms of the size of my organization and so on.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a fair question to ask on this. So I'll give you probably the short answer. Anybody can use it. It doesn't matter the size of your company. Part of our mission is to democratize AI for all manufacturers, and we've set that in stone at the very beginning. Small, medium, and large businesses, you can utilize AI. It is cost affordable because there's a cost improvement that's coming from the implementation of this. So going back to that ROI can be calculated for small operations, medium, large operations. It doesn't matter. We democratize AI for everybody, so it's available for everyone.
Yeah. Our listeners won't see this, so you've got a big clock behind you there, Jeff. So I've got a great view of how much time we've got left. So I think I'll try and squeeze in 2 more there. So I was wondering, Can you cover some of the benefits for this? I think when we talk about automation, when we talk about machinery upgrades, all that kind of stuff, processors need to see the benefits up front in order to consider applying that to their facility. So what are the benefits for something like AI vision?
Sure. Again, like you say, you need the benefits, you need the ROI that comes with it, or improved metrics that you're looking for. So, enhanced product quality, your defect detection for materials, inconsistencies, that sort of thing. You're going to get a much higher quality product coming out. Increased production efficiency. So the automation of visual inspection, it reduces the need for manual labor, so you can have manual labor doing something else that you need them to be doing. It speeds up the production line, so you have less downtime. It's also reducing waste because it knows between good and bad. And, again, that objective, subjective, it knows the difference. So it's actually reducing waste that way. It's also reducing waste in electricity as well. You have Alice monitoring all of your equipment and will tell you when you should be shutting down pieces of equipment that aren't being used, or shut the lights off, doing whatever it needs to be doing. Or shut off the compressor if it's not being needed, those sorts of things. So reducing that sort of thing.
I just want to interject there. I think that's so interesting that you bring that up, because I know that AI, there's always that conversation they're having, right? AI and environmental sustainability and, the cost of it. But there's an application right there in the real world that's having a direct impact on waste and waste management and making it more efficient for the machinery within facilities. It's interesting that there's an offset to that whole conversation. When you start seeing it applied, those benefits in efficiency really kind of start to show. So that's very interesting. Sorry, I just had to interject because I do know a lot of people are always talking about environmental aspect of AI. So it's very interesting.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, because we can touch on that one a little bit, because we all have the same sort of habits when we go into manufacturing. First thing we're turning on all the lights in the plant. We're turning on all the all the conveyors. We're turning on all the machines. We're turning on all the fryers and the ovens and anything else that, might be going along with it. Do we really need them on at that point in time? AI can really help us decide whether we really need them on at that point in time. And there's areas in our plants where that machine's just running for no reason whatsoever. Again, AI can make those decisions and can send a signal. So you use that signal to use those to your benefits. So yeah, it really does. And that sort of helps lower your operational costs as well. So you're doing the environment a lot of good. Mm-hmm. You're also lowering your operational costs. The biggest thing that I see, the biggest advantage that we really haven't tapped into just yet is data-driven insights for continuous improvement. We want to get it to the point, where we have Alice and we have Vita, but an overlying structure would be, that Kaizen sort of event where it's taking all that information from that ecosystem that you have in your plant, once you get all AI-ified, that sort of thing. And it's taking all that information and it's looking for continuous improvement and starting to make suggestions, quality trends, production processes, optimization, that sort of thing. That's going to be our biggest thing in the future when we get to it.
Yeah, for listeners, I looked this up because I'm nerdy like that. Kaizen is Japanese for continuous improvement. Yes, I did look through that and had to know. Okay, we've got I've got you for I think 3 more minutes here, Jeff. I do appreciate that you've got that 30 years in food processing experience, and then you've come to this role. And I think that's just almost like an over the horizon event. You must think, if I told myself 30 years ago that this is the stuff we'd be doing, my mind would just explode. That's insane. And so I was wondering, what are some of the most exciting developments that you see on the horizon for this technology? I know you talked about data insight, but I'm wondering, what other aspects to it do you think could be seen in the next, I don't know, 5-10 years?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I really see that. I'm going to go back to saying ecosystem. I really see the ecosystem, the AI ecosystem, developing within manufacturers. So we start using AI in all of the different, applications that we could have within the plant, and we can really almost, if you really wanted to, you can almost really automate. You're not going to get rid of people. That's the one misnomer that we have. People are not going to go away. You're always going to need people to help you with your manufacturing process, but you can automate so much of it. And we're going to get to that part where, people working in those harsh conditions or doing those repetitive strain, injury prone activities, we're going to eliminate that stuff, right? By having AI vision that the eyes and the brains connected to mechanical, that we can start taking people out of those positions so that they're not hurting themselves. Over 30, 40 years of being in the industry, they're not going to be hurting themselves, right? So I see an improvement in health for a lot of people. I see hyper accurate inspection. I see inspection of food products getting better and better all the time. That's really going to come out. I see us getting into, as I talked about, sort of that Kaizen being introduced in that real-time process optimization. So rather than, as I said to some folks, I say, it's not what did we not do good yesterday? It's what's happening right now. Right. So we can make improvements on the fly as we're moving. So that puts us into a better processing position, which makes us more profitable, faster to market, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And a really cool one that I'm looking forward, and I hope I get to stay in the industry long enough for this one, and that's integration with augmented reality. This one's coming up fast. So that's providing real-time guidance for maintenance and troubleshooting, through vision wearables, that sort of thing. So it's connected back to all the data that it's learned and that sort of thing, and can help you identify what's wrong with that machine, how to repair the machine. You don't have to take out the manual anymore, sort of thing, because it's going to be right there with you. So getting into that sort of thing, that's going to be really cool in the future.
Just
on that
the
one.
Amount of access to information, and then the ease of access to information. I mean, that's
absolutely.
It's just it's so exciting to think about. Thank you, Jeff, for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Also, the benefit of a very exciting topic. I think this stuff is completely fascinating. It's even if you're food processing, I mean, have a look at what AI is doing. Have a look at where it's headed. We've got a conference coming up soon, and I think one of our primary messages with that conference, the theme is that the AI, automation, getting on top of these new technologies, it's not just a nice to have anymore. It's you need to know that these things exist. So definitely a pleasure to talk with you, Jeff. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you very much, Jeff. We really appreciate this. Very, very insightful.
Well, thank you, guys. Thanks for having me, and pleasure. Anytime anybody has any questions about AI and vision and how it works with them, small, medium, large size company, don't hesitate. Give me a call. We can chat about it. I can help you through everything. And thank you so much for having me today. Appreciate it.
Our pleasure. That's all for today's show. As a reminder, FBO's annual conference is taking place May 28th in Toronto. And as previously announced, we're excited to welcome Ontario Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Agribusiness Minister Trevor Jones, as well as the Minister of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade, Vic Fideli. There's a lot of great networking opportunities and a star-packed lineup of speakers for this year's conference, including Deputy Chief Economist Benjamin Tal, National Affairs columnist Chantal Hubert, co-director of the Innovation Policy Lab Dan Bresnitz, and CEO of Ipsos Public Affairs Daryl Bricker. Registration is on Food and Beverage Ontario's website, but be warned, seats are filling up quite fast, so if you're interested in attending, it's best to go sign up now. And we hope to see you there. Take care, everyone.